Thanks. And thanks again, everybody, for taking some time to join us. You can see the agenda here. What we've got is a new version of our utilities for Revit that is now out and ready for everybody to start using. And we want to take some time to talk about what's new in there. It also cover some of the what's already been in the tools for a little while, get some things going on in that sense so that we can not only understand what's new that you can use, but maybe some of those common tools that are available inside the tool set that you forgot about, didn't know were there, something along those lines. So we'll take that, set some foundation, and keep moving on. As it relates to things, as Ashley mentioned, my role in the company is just working with everybody that does anything related to buildings, design, construction, facilities management, engineering, you name it. As it correlates back to the utilities, you got all the team, myself, Eugene, everybody that we work with that's engaged with our development team on figuring out what needs to come next to those utilities. So we've been setting up and working with them since day one, really. So that's a little bit about myself. I've been with the company 25 years almost now, so going on pretty long in the tooth. Eugene?
Hey everybody, I'm Eugene. I am the design and engineering team manager. I've been in the industry for, like Joe, 30 plus years in the dealership side of the world. My background dates back to that little floppy disk you may or may not see in the corner there of release AutoCAD 1.4. As far as Revit goes, when Addins purchased Revit back in 2002, been dealing with all of that, and I'm very excited about showing the new tools. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, so on the next slide, the short history of the typical where we were and where we've begun. If we go back to the earliest days, as soon as Autodesk started releasing an API for Revit, we came around and said, cool, let's start building some tools. And the first two we ever created and released, gave them away for free, was a tool to renumber doors and to renumber rooms. Part of it was, let's just see what we can do with the API and make things happen. And part of it was also, we built a tool, released it for free to everybody in the world, just because, well, obviously Autodesk is going to have something soon to be able to map a door number to an associated room number, and this tool will be irrelevant in the next months or years. And here we are many years later, and it's still one of the more commonly used tools that we've got out there. If we're looking at the how's it going stages, this is some recent screen caps of what the utilities toolbar looks like right now. And it's actually, as I'm looking at it here, realizing I missed one, and shame on me for this. There's a set of 3 tools related to working with point clouds that didn't make it into my screen caps. So shame on me. So it's even larger than what we've got here of how it's grown over the years, from just 2 tools to dozens of things that fall in a mix of tools that are really great for just end users, people in production and design and engineering that just need to get stuff done, and some that are perhaps a little bit more strategic that are related to BIM managers, BIM coordinators related to a particular project. So if we see what all those things were, and we've been just working on all these over the years, the tool set has grown based off of input from our team, and just things of, hey, IMAGINiT development crew, could we add a tool for placing families along a line, or things along those lines? Okay, cool, that got in there. But then also getting feedback from you, from our customers, of what are some different tools that you would like to see get into this toolkit. And a good portion of what we've got in here came directly from customer feedback of, can you add this, can you add that? So if we take that into mind, before we get into the what's new side of things, I wanted to go on a quick little tour of my favorite top 10 of what's in the past. So if you hop over to the next slide, this is really just the Joe's top 10 of things. Oh, and sorry, forgot. We're also expanding into utilities beyond Revit. So if you are in a multidiscipline firm, you've got somebody that's working with Civil 3D, we're there. We've got utilities for Civil 3D. We got a webcast coming on that's what's new for them. We can get you the dates, but coming up as well. We've got utilities for Vault on the manufacturing side. Do a lot of different types of custom development as well, but it just went from a simple, what could we do to help out with productivity on updating door numbers, to multiple tools for Revit, multiple tools for Civil 3D, tools for Vault, Site Client, Vault Server, and just moving on and on from there, let alone the other 4 fee products that we've got. So now over to the next one. If we're looking at my top 10, I've specifically avoided having any of the what's new tools in the Joe's top 10, because this is just going to be looking into what's historically been available, because there are a couple of things that are new for this release that I would probably drop into this list, but I've got to keep them all separated a little bit. This is not related to what types of tools are people clicking on most often. It's just really what are the things that I think, as I've been using things for different projects that we're working on, different items, what I'm getting the most value out of. And it's not specifically in a ranked order of 1 to 10 most and least, but just the 10 things that I find most valuable. Starting with just the idea of project data import-export, the ability to go through and take parameter information from Revit, dump it out to an Excel sheet so you can do some faster, quicker editing in Excel, and then bring the changes back in. Optionally do some things like bulk create sheets out of that project data import. There's all sorts of interesting tricks that you can go through for that, but I'm big on the data side of Revit. So anything I can do to help gain access to and make easier manipulation of Revit data possible, I'm going to go for that. And so project data import export is there. Now it's technically 2 different buttons, 2 different tools, but I blended it all into one. That door renumber is still really high up in the list. Room renumbering, high up in the list. So, inserting a room number into the middle of a sequence because you had to split and add a room, going through and telling all the doors to just bulk update and across an entire project in seconds instead of hours that it might take to manually go through that process. Just going through it and just saving time through all those different elements. Bulk creating views in a project based off of levels, view types, view templates, and just go from a basic framework of a project with a minimal template starting point to a fully fleshed out set of project views, again, in the matter of seconds instead of all the time it might take otherwise. Whether you're architecture, MEP, doesn't matter. Beyond that, one of the tools that, I'm not going to touch on every one of these, but one of the tools that was one of the first requests ever from a customer for something to add into Utilities for Revit was the link fixer. This is in the pre-Autodesk Construction Cloud BIM Collaborate Pro days, where a customer of ours was going to be going to a new file server, and they had this massive library of Revit files that if they just moved the Revit files to the new file server, all of a sudden they're broken, links are broken, all the files think that they are local copies instead of the central model because their UNC path location changed. So what we did is we built out the link fixer to be able to bulk process Revit files to fix the links so that everything's opening as they should, and allows them to reset as a central model, saving them days and weeks worth of time when they were going through something as significant as a file server move. Now that's not going to hit everybody, but when that idea of the link fixer comes around, it's a huge impact on your time, however infrequently you might end up using it. The last one that I'll mention here for now before I turn it over to Eugene is really going to be the adjust pipe one. The idea, actually I'll touch on 2. The adjust pipe is if you're on that MEP side of things and you got 2 pipes that you want to join into some sort of fitting, a 90-degree corner, whatever it is, and you go to trim the 2 together and it won't do it because they don't exactly meet at a point. Adjusting one pipe up and down a little bit or changing the angle some so that they can join at that point can be a pain, we'll say gently. So what the adjust pipe will allow you to do is pick one that's going to stay in place, pick the other that's going to move, and allow you to just automatically figure out exactly how far up or down it needs to go or what angle it needs to change so that you can use the trim tool to join them together. Takes what's an annoying process and makes it super simple. The last one I wanted to mention, which I think is underutilized for anybody that's working on projects that have some blend of AutoCAD and Revit, whether we're talking about renovation projects or whatever, the CAD block insert utility will allow you to pick an AutoCAD block from a LinkedIn DWG file and batch replace that block with a Revit family. So when we're looking at making the transition from DWG to RVT, just some tools in there. We've got one there that would also help out with creating walls and rooms and things like that. But the one that I like the most is the CAD block insert for just bulk conversion of those AutoCAD blocks to Revit families. List goes on and on from there. But let's take that for a minute and maybe turn it over to Eugene. And as he's going through there, I'm going to go ahead and cut off my camera, save bandwidth, save distractions, and go through what's new.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
You bet.
All right, folks, so what is new? I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera as well to save a little bandwidth since I'm working from home. And I'll turn it back on when I'm all done with my presentation. So what is any new release without an update or two, right, from existing tools? So we actually have two that we've updated within this one. One has actually got a name change as well. So we have the Enhanced Transfer Project Standards is now the Model Updator. And we've done some updating to our fabrication item numbers as well. When it comes to our new tools, we have 5 new tools, starting with the section box toggle and model. I'm going on to schedule an opening, which allows me to schedule opening a Revit file. And then we have our, I think my favorite, which would be the element model compare, as well as the Revit add-in helper. So when we look at some of the update utilities, and I've adjusted my ribbon a little bit from what Joe had, so you'll see that they're a little bit, maybe a little off from Joe's picture earlier, but again, you're going to find these right in the model updater, right in the actual ribbon itself, and then the fabrication item is going to be in the drop down under the MEP section of the tools. So let's start off with a model updater. And if you're not familiar what the Enhanced Transfer Project Standard actually did, was just like it says, Enhanced Project Standards. So thinking about the Project Standards transfer option that we have, it's pretty straightforward, but with this one, we actually have the ability to create actions and set up lists and export lists and import lists from that. And what is new with this tool is that now we have the ability to actually do multiple targets. So we have the ability to do batch updates to project standards, as well as we're able to go off to BIM 360 and the construction cloud as well. So nice little features that allows us to basically be more efficient when we're transferring our company standards from one project to another project. When it comes to the fabrication item numbering, you know, it kind of starts off with, when you do it, it pops up and it's going to ask you, okay, want to hit my mouse roll. Sorry about that, folks. It goes through this little box and it's going to ask you, do you want to number all of your parts or items, or do you want to pick things? And it pops you up into a dialog box that allows you to set up what's your number set sequence going to be. Are you going to reuse numbers? Or are you going to do about without the parts? And basically, you know, the idea behind this tool, since, you know, Revit doesn't have this out of the box, allows us to increase our productivity when we're actually renumbering our parts. So let's pop over here into Revit and let's take a look at it. So again, we have our IMAGINiT ribbon right there. And if you didn't know about ribbons, you can actually pull these off the screen. And that way, you know, if we pop into things and I grab something that, you know, remember it switches over to the modify tab, and this is just going to let me keep it up on my screen. But also typically when I'm in production mode or I'm doing something as far as one of my tasks going in Revit, I'll probably have this on my second monitor or third monitor, so that way I can not have to switch the tab over and just go right to the actual button itself. Now, one of the things you're gonna notice when it comes to the ribbon, again, is, like I said, I've kind of changed it just a little bit just for my ease of use and comfort. But here's our model updator. And so when I click onto that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose a source. And if I've done that already today, I can grab it from the list here, but I'm going to go browse for that. And I already have one set up for that. and then just grab it from the list now that I have it. And then you have your action list that you have, and I have a couple here, but what we can actually do with action lists is I can go save that out, and I can bring my action list in. And once it's in here, I can grab it from there, so I can actually grab the action so I don't have to redo the action over and over and over again. So that's going to save me time. And then, of course, I can do this a group of models now, and I'm going to go just do it locally. Grab these 3 models right here to do that. Now, we could also create it from scratch. We can edit it. So I can take this one and I can do an edit to it, or I can create a new one, which is what I want to do. And I want to do it for view templates. I'm going to go to my action drop-down list for view templates, and I'm going to call this one IMAGINiT View Templates. And I want to go ahead and just select them. So I'm going to grab my IMAGINiT View Templates here. And we're good to go. I'm going to go save that, so it puts it over here in my actions. And then what I also want to do is I'm going to save this out to here, and we'll call it IMAGINiT View Templates, so I can use it over and over again. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and close this box. And then on the drop-down list here, I should have my IMAGINiT View Templates. And then once I have it all set up, all I need to do is hit the transfer button, and it's going to go off and do the transfer to 3 different files. A box will pop up, and I'll let you know how the process went. So in this case, no fails, no skips. So you can see right away that I just successfully did that transfer to all three projects. So thinking about doing this over and over and over again within the transfer project standards, think about what you have to do out of the box, Revit. You got to open up the files, you got to transfer it, you got to open up the files, you got to transfer it. So we did this in less than 5 minutes to transfer all of that within 3 projects. Okay, so the new utilities, you're going to know that the new utilities are there, or which ones they are, because they're all set to cyan. So you're going to see that we've got the section toggle, the section box toggle and model with the add-in helper, the element compare, and the schedule open. So I'm going to go start off with this section box toggle, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm thinking about it, it's just a way of switching from your section box on and off. It's just a toggle. And think about how much time you spend looking for that over in the view properties. Well, now it's just a button that you can have. Just basically pick the button. Now, when it comes to the section box model, it's a little different. It's basically allowing us to create more impactful presentations quickly when it comes to creating the section of our box. So it allows me to, basically add a single level or grab bulk, and bulk allows me to grab multiple levels at one time. I can set up the bottom offset and the top offset. I can select what view template I want to have. I can select what my active phase is going to be, and then I can also give it a naming convention, or use the out of the box name convention. And the nice thing about this is we can save this configuration and reload it in other projects, as long as we, obviously name conventions are the same for our floors and stuff. So, great little tool that we have here. All right, so let me pop over here to my 3D view. Pretty straightforward again when it comes to our section box toggle. You just grab it and just basically pick it. Oops. And pick it again. You can see it just toggles on and off. And this is something that, again, you can do and modify your ribbon and place it. So there's certain things, like I'm not an MEP person. So what I could do is I can, basically kind of hide that information and just add this as buttons on my list here through the utilities button here that allows me to say what I want to see and what I want to hide. Now, when it comes to the model option, little dialog box is going to pop up for us. We can add a level, we can grab something, and we can just remove that level. Again, we can do add a bulk. I'm going to grab, let's say, level 3 here. Here you have the ability to set your offsets automatically within this box. I'll say add, or you can do it off. Once it's in the box, you can set up what your view template's going to be. You can say, what phasing do I want to have? And then of course my naming convention. In this case, it's going to be name of the view and name of the view template. I can save this out and I'll just save it right here. Oops, I want to go up a folder. There we go. And we'll call it section box model. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and just hit update. And a couple things are going to happen. It's going to update. If I had multiple ones and I had changes, let's say I already had this view set up, but I didn't have a view template set up, what it would do is really create the view, but it would go and set that view template for it. In this case, what it did is I didn't have the view. And so it created the view for me based upon that criteria I had. So floor and then the actual view template name. All right, schedule opening. This is, I needed this a couple weeks back before we had the utilities that launch. And what this allows us to do is basically schedule when we open up a file. So think about how long does it take, to get a file open. In this particular case, it took, from the cloud, it took about 45 minutes to basically create that or open that file up on my desktop. Since it was the first time doing it and I was home, so my internet speed isn't the greatest. But again, what this allows us to do is open up local files or files from BIM 360 or ACC, allows us to actually open up either one or multiple files. So we have another batch routine here. And of course, you can set the date and the time that you want to do. So again, this allows you to, thinking about it, I can have this file open by 8:30 and start working after emails. All right, so you're going to find it kind of right here, schedule open, pops it in. Basically, we're going to add a local file. Let's grab the firehouse here, and let's go ahead and just remove that one. And I want to set it up for tomorrow, and I want it to be at 7, we'll say 30. And I don't care about seconds. Pretty straightforward that. And then all I got to do is hit schedule, and it's set up that I'm good to go. And now tomorrow it's going to open up that file on my machine at 7:30. Now there's a caveat to when it comes to obviously any of the model updater or this one when it comes to the ACC Pro, and that is that you have to make sure that you have your credentials set up on that machine and ready to go. So in other words, if I'm not logged into my Addins account, it's not going to launch the Revit and open up that file because it doesn't have access to that file on ACC, or I don't have access to the actual file. So there's the other key factor. I've got to have two things when it comes to the cloud. I have to have access to the file, and I have to be logged into my account. And again, this is my favorite tool where it comes into comparing elements. And so what compare elements allows us to do a couple different things here. It allows us to choose a category from our list. So again, walls, doors, windows, view templates, dimension styles, all those type of different categories. Or I can go off into the model and actually select like things to compare. So doors to doors, windows to windows, things like that, not wall to window. So it has to be obviously the same category. Now, when I do that, and I'm going to get a list of things that compares to it, and it's going to give you everything. And I have a little button that I actually hit show only the differences, which allows me to quickly see what my changes are. And we actually have it colored set up for that. And then I could also just export it out to Excel as well. So once I have that, I'm able to look at it more granularly and see what it is versus in the model itself. So this gives me a more enhanced tool for investigating within my model. And this is just the beginning of what this thing can do. So I can see this evolving into a bunch of different things, like how many are there of this thing, and can we delete certain things and merge certain things. So I can see this, growing and what we can do with this particular tool. All right, so here's the button right there, right in the middle there, element compare. It'll pop up, and I'll do a quick one here. It starts off with view templates. I'll do floors, and I want to see really kind of what the difference is between those two. And then all I have to do is hit next, and that's going to pop me up into a box, and it's going to show me all of the things that are the same and different. And so different is yellow. And if I only want to see the differences, I can just hit that little show only the differences. Then it pops down there. So of course the title makes sense, the ID makes sense, the name makes sense. But here's some visibility overrides that are different between the two. Now we'll get out and we have to get back in to do the next one. And let's say that I want to, I'll do something really wacky like a material. So let's go look at materials and what is the difference between these two masonry ones. And again, it's going to show me the differences between those. And I can go off again and say, show me only the differences so I get that look and feel for it. And the last one I want to do, which I ran into yesterday when I was kind of playing, I didn't realize I actually had this, but under dimension styles, I have 3 different linear dimension styles. There's the other one. I want to compare those. And when I compare those, I notice that they are all the same. So the only difference obviously is the ID part. So my question is, why do we have 3 that are all the same? So now I can use something like my inspect tool that I have to go look at that and find out where are these, do we have any of them, and then actually get rid of those other 2 because that's just wasting things in my model that I don't need to see. Excuse me. All right, and my last one is the add-ins option for us. Now, there's 2 things. This is great for BIM management and looking at a bunch of different ways of support. So Revit's running slow, we can turn things on and turn things off and so forth. And looking at this, I just like to see what's going on. So we have 2 different tabs. You have an Autodesk built-in tab, which all the Autodesk stuff is in, and then you have the third-party add-ins like our utilities is going to be there. And so we can do this in the model, or a really nice thing we can do is we can actually do it outside when Revit's not actually running. And so when you first install the utilities, you're going to get 2 icons in your desktop. You're going to get this Revit add-ins helper, and you're going to get the Revit journal reader, which I'm very surprised it's not one of Joe's top 10, but nonetheless. And then it's also going to find it on the start menu under the R's. And so what we're going to do is just kind of show you this. I won't actually run through the entire thing because I'll have to restart my Revit. But when we go into the add-ins, it'll pop up saying there's a warning. And you guys still see my screen? Joe?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. All right, because it flashed off and on. All right, so when we're looking at this, you have the ability to set up which version that you have. So these are all the versions that I have loaded. And then you have, again, these are all the built-in ones from Autodesk. So you look down, there's a couple Dynamo ones that we have. I got the energy analysis add-on going on there. And then on my third-party ones, you can see that there's my IMAGINiT one, and I actually have the ID8 software as well, but you can see that it's actually been disabled. So if I want to enable that, I basically will check it on. I'll go and say I want to enable it, and we'll say okay to continue. Looks like it did it okay. And then when I close out of it, what I'll have to do is shut down Revit, restart Revit to actually get my ID8 software tab back up on my screen. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Joe.
Cool. So obviously there's some really neat things that are in there. So the first question begins to say, okay, how do we get them? Well, if you're an IMAGINiT customer, you've got access right away. If you go to our website and go to this utilities request page, it'll fill out the information and get it plugged in so we can send you a new set of utilities. You can always reach out to your IMAGINiT account manager for that information. But it's as it says, it's one of the things that we do that is a way of saying thanks for doing business with us. if you are do business with us in some fashion or another, let's get these to you, start getting some benefit from it. The process is pretty simple. They will have both a option of getting a network licensed copy or an end single, per user licensed version of it. By default, we'll do the user-based licensing, but we've got some options there for you depending on how you'd like to roll. Once that's done, the other question becomes and says, well, if I'm not an IMAGINiT customer, how do I go about doing it? So if you go ahead and roll forward one more slide, there's really two options available to you if you want to go ahead and get them. One is you can pay for it. We do have them available for sale from people that are not currently IMAGINiT customers because you got somebody else that you like to work with. I might disagree with that, but that's fine. But what we want to do is turn around and say, let's turn around and maybe there is an opportunity to grow and gain, apologize for that, gain some additional benefits by becoming a customer of IMAGINiT. In addition to the utilities for free, there's all sorts of fun stuff that might come along for the ride. So one of them is contact us for pricing, single user or group pricing. The second one being, let's go ahead and do some business together, and then you don't have to pay for it. So that's awfully nice. So if you go through 2 slides forward, just to finish this part out, from this spot, it also comes around to say, well, what if you have an idea for something that's not in here? That there's this, you saw these tools and it's all great, but you were really hoping that we might have created a tool that would have made your life just that much better. Let's get us that feedback. As I had mentioned before, with things like the link fixer and such, a lot of the best ideas that we have for utilities to build into the IMAGINiT Utilities for Revit come from our customers. So get us the feedback. Let's see what we can do to get it fit in there. Not everything can be made into a utility, but if we can, we're eagerly always looking for that feedback to see what we can do next. Beyond that, if we've got something that's beyond what is reasonable for a quick utility for Revit, we do have a team, as you can say, a team of 15. I think it might be even growing from there right now, but developers. We're a US-based company. Everybody's in US or Canada that's working for us on the employees that are doing the work on the utilities. Let's see what we might do as something custom. We've done, utilities that are custom for a particular customer to solve specific sort of niche needs. We've done things that are massive undertakings that do, that are involved with a complete business transformation. All sorts of things are possible. Just let's get in touch with each other, see where that's at, whether it's just the ideas or something a little more particular to yourself. There's all sorts of stuff that we're continually working on that touch single disciplines, multiple disciplines, you name it, goes all over the place. So get us some feedback, go get the utilities, talk to your account rep so you can get the utilities if you need to, but let's start using them and save yourself some time. So with that, if you go on to the last slide, that will be our sort of ubiquitous, what questions do we have? There have been some questions that people have typed into the Q&A pane already. If you have any, go ahead and throw them through there and we'll pause and start answering any questions that are coming around as you type them. So have at it.
Absolutely. And just a quick reminder, everyone, the session has been recorded, so you'll receive a copy along with any additional resources emailed to you shortly after today's session.
And there's one question that I haven't answered. There were a couple that we're answering through as Eugene was presenting, but one that we didn't get to answering in the stream of things, but a question of, can the element compare tool compare elements between 2 different models? And the answer to that is, at this time, no. Right now, we're just reading of the data within a single file, although I believe it's in our plan, and if not, I'll make sure it is within our plans to be able to look at and compare things between, we'll say, the active file and a linked element. but as of right now, it is looking inside the current file only. Next question that came in was, could you describe the family processor use? So that was one of the tools that I had in my top 10. To be fair, the element compare one is one of the tools in the new add-ins, new additional features that probably will start jumping into my top 10. Just the potential for that, for comparing different things and saying, well, like we saw in the demo, I've got two things that are really similar. What's the real difference between them? Crazy powerful. But that being said, if we go back to the family processor, the idea behind the family processor is it's a tool, it's a utility that needs to be run within a within a family file. And the idea behind it is that if you've got a parameter that you want to add into multiple families, if you've got a series of changes that you want to make across a number of different families, then we plug that in, create some rules to say, let's add a parameter, let's change the value of a parameter, let's change some settings within a particular file. There's a series of actions that we can take to add, delete, or change materials, add, delete, change parameters, replace parameters, change properties of a parameter. So we can do all those different types of things within a family, set that into a, we'll say a batch script, for lack of better words, and then run through and say, process all of these things. Now, it's part of the reason it's in my top 10 is with the types of work that IMAGINiT does, we'll often be working with our customers' libraries to make updates, to sometimes even create things from scratch, and then come back and say, oh yeah, hey, by the way, could we also add in whatever? Or we need to update these families to include some new information, some new ways that we're working. We can just batch process all of these families at once instead of going through that time-consuming process of doing that parameter change, material change, whatever change across multiple families manually. So it's all about saving time. Pros of the journal reader we brought up. The biggest thing that we'll have with the journal reader, in my mind, and I don't know if you'll have anything else to add to this, Eugene, but the biggest thing in the journal reader in my mind is we'll have options within that journal reader to filter the journal to only show certain types of entries. And then we've got some color coding in there as well to flag certain things to your attention as you're trying to avoid going too far cross-eyed reading through journal files. So just the filtering capabilities beyond what you would get if you were opening at any other text editor. That's my opinion. I don't know if you feel any different.
100%. It's a lot easier to read a journal font, and I'm not a journal person, but once I got into that reader, it was much easier to read what was going on within that particular journal versus just opening up in Notepad and trying to figure out what's going on there.
Cool. We had a question of, can we transfer panel schedules between electrical projects? Now, I would have to say that'd be through the model updater now. And in the list, I haven't checked panel schedules specifically. I am scanning through it.
I'm going to pop over here to.
Yeah, and we've got panel types, but I'm in phase, that's going to be view phase settings, but I'm not seeing panel schedules, and I don't think it'll be, yeah, we won't capture it under generic schedules settings. So
Would we, and forgive me, I'm not an MEP person, but couldn't we grab insert from file, insert view from file, and grab it because it's a view?
Right, that's where I was going next. It's not there as a specific element, but we could grab it as a view.
Yes.
I'd want to test it just to make sure that the answer is 100% correct, but using what Eugene was saying, copying it as a view, yes. And we can do that through the model updater as well. That'll be an option of copying a view from a different file.
Right. Let me get the note down, and I'll have one of our MEP techs test that.
Cool. Next up from there, 2 questions. Was wondering, sorry, just pre-reading just to make sure I'm not going to say anything that anybody doesn't want to throw out there, but with repairing links tool, somebody had made a Dynamo script to repath, and it lost hosting for all sorts of things, you know, dimension lines, window tags, and so on. I have not run it. So with the tool that we've got for repathing, it shouldn't. So let me back up a little bit. We'll use parts of the e-transmit functionality to help mark things as transmitted and to process files and links before you ever open them up. So if I'm reading this question correctly, if you were using something like a Dynamo script to repath, what would end up happening with Dynamo is you have to open up the file, the links are broken, things that were attached to the links get broken, and then when you repair the link, stuff that was attached to it might stay broken because once it's broken, it stays there. With the IMAGINiT Utilities side, we'll be repathing the links before you open up the file. So the stuff that would have gotten broken, door tags, dimension tags, window tags, room tags, should stay in place and be completely healed along with it. So I haven't run into any problems with us having linked or connected objects not working through those links when using our tool because of that order of operation. And then, you know, when we're looking at things as far as, are we a client? I'd say let's reach out to your local account rep and find out. So reach out to your account rep to get that specific information. And then the adjust pipe tool, is it only for Revit services or would it be able to work for MEP fabrication parts? I believe right now we are filtered to have the pipe adjust work specifically with just Revit pipe element category objects. But that would be another good one for a feature request to go in. I mean, we've got things that can help out with the fabrication part numbering. Why don't we go to that next level and also have the fabrication objects adjusted within the modified pipe? So good feature request. Thank you for that. Next one down. So it's qualification on element compare. Yeah, so the reason why there's a good justification to have element compare work between multiple files, and for the person that wrote that, I agree. We've got everything logged, so we've got that justification point down in here, and so thank you very much for that. Some extra confirmation or detail about panel schedules, and a question: can the model updater be automated by Clarity? Imagine it's Clarity product. Versus have that be in the wish list. Right now, I will say no, but when we were coming out with that in talking about things through the beta timeline, that was an immediate question that came into my mind as well, because the IMAGINiT Clarity software, it's a paid for thing, but it does batch processing, data collection, all sorts of different stuff, you know, business intelligence, BI reports, all sorts of good things. But when we're taking it as a batch processor, for example, wouldn't it be cool if we could say, well, okay, we're staring at it right now, so the fire rating, could we apply that tool to 20 different Revit files and just set it and go and walk away? Clarity does have its own sort of a transfer project standards type of functionality, but just because of the release cycle be doing these things, we released the 2024.1 version of Clarity a few months back, and then we did some additional development to improve the transfer project standards utility for Revit. And now we're going to get back into the development cycle for clarity. So we'll have that opportunity to enhance that to get, we'll say, a feature parity between utilities and clarity through there. So we are of similar mind to that. With that, that's all the questions I see in here right now. If anybody else has any questions, please take some time, get it typed in there. We've got a little bit left before we start getting towards the top of the hour. But if not, I don't want to hold you here, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, week, and you name it. Go get those utilities.